Hey everyone, it's Sunday and time for a new episode of Record Collecting with a Quill. Theme for today, slow starters. Some bands get it right with the get-go from their first debut album. You have bands like Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith, and the list is endless with bands that some bands even their first album is the best one. But you have some bands that need a couple of albums to sort of find their sound, or maybe they were missing sort of a key member or something. So I decided to dig into some of those. And don't misinterpret me. I love most of these albums. I think they are great, but they are far cry from what the bands later became, and sort of what their key sound in a way. So, before we start, you know the good old drill. Make sure you subscribe and hit that little notice bell and share with your friends. Starting out, I decided to go with this one. This is one often mentioned when you talk about sort of debut albums sort of missing the mark. The first Thin Lizzy album, where they were a trio for the first three albums with Eric Bell on guitar, and it's quite different from the twin lead guitar sort of live and dangerous style of Thin Lizzy. This is a lot more sort of progressive and almost like space rock. It's sort of time typical early 70s. You have like mellow parts, and you have almost like spoken parts as well. But as I said, I'm a big fan of the first three Lizzy albums with Eric Bell, but they are really different from what they later became. But still a good album, but they took a different route later on. And next one, an album I think is quite similar in style and musically, is this one, the first Scorpions album, The Lonesome Crow. It's, as I said, it sounds quite similar to the Thin Lizzy album, sort of almost like space rock influences. What you have here, and sort of make this album a little bit better, is a 16-year-old Michael Schenker, who's playing great, and he left Scorpions after this one and joined UFO, and the rest is history, they say. But you don't hear a lot of the melodic side of Scorpions. You don't hear a lot of Rock You Like a Hurricane or Still Loving You in this one, even though it's a great album. And I'm quite fond of the early Scorpion stuff with Uli, John Roth as well. But sort of it took the next album is a lot better, and but as I said, still a great one. This one, Lonesome Crow, Scorpions. Next one, another one from the same time period, but this is sort of this is an album I truly love, but it's quite different from the Judas Priest heavy metal sound, and I think this one is I think it's mainly because of the producer Roger Bain. He produced the first three Black Sabbath albums, and you can certainly hear the influence of that in this album. And he rejected a lot of the material Judas Priest bought for the album, which later became, they recorded for Sad Wings of Destiny, which is to some extent sort of them finding their true sound. But you have some great stuff on this one nonetheless. But as I said, I think you can hear a little bit of the Sabbath influences, and if that came from Roger Bain or from the fact that they were from Birmingham as well, I don't know. But as I said, a great album, but I think they sort of found their true style on the next album. But great album nonetheless. Next one is an album, I think I mentioned it before, and this is more in the style of a band missing a key member for the debut album, a key member that came in later and sort of took the band on a different route. This is the first Journey album before Steve Perry joined them, and this is a lot more progressive, but a great album, which I'm really fond of. It's a lot more progressive. You have some long progressive parts. You have great guitar playing by Neil Schon, great drumming from Ansley Dunbar on this one as well. But a lot different from as I said previously, you don't hear a lot of Don't Stop Believing in this one, but still fantastic album, well worth checking out. The next couple of albums is sort of more, I think, bands sort of developing something totally new, and bands coming with something new to the studio, and probably ending up with some old guys in the studio who didn't know how to record them, and sort of. So this is more bands that have sort of the songs, but they sort of missed the sound for the first albums. And the first pick is this one, Caius, Wretch, their first one. They recorded an EP as Son of Caius previously to recording this one, and I think there's a couple of tracks from the EP on this one. And even though there's some great tracks on this one, I think the recording is sort of a letdown, and you have sort of the late 80s, early 90s sort of reverb drums that doesn't fit the Caius sound at all. Even though, as I said, there's still some great tracks on this one, but if I want to listen to Caius, this one is not the first pick. There's others I rather choose, and sort of, I guess, a band, I guess a young band coming into a studio and with an experienced producer, maybe don't always sort of I don't think they will always win the arguments. And I think that was probably the case with this one. And the same goes for my next pick. And as I said, I know for a fact, because I read up a little bit about it, that this is the first Soundgarden album, Ultra Mega OK. They decided to record away from Seattle, and ended up with a guy who didn't know what they were all about, and didn't know what was happening in Seattle, and sort of missed the mark completely when he recorded them. And Soundgarden they sort of remixed it and re-released it a couple of years ago, but I think it still sounds a little bit better. And this one really, it has some great songs, but I think the recording is a hard swallow. And as I said, even though they remixed it, it's still, I think it was probably badly recorded from the get-go, because I think especially the guitar sound is sort of hard to get into, if you ask me. But what a great band they were. But the first one is sort of, it's not my favorite one. And for my last pick, I decided to sort of save the best for last. Is this one, the first album by Alice Cooper, the band that is, Pretty's for You. Released on Frank Zappa's label Straight, and he was sort of the producer. From what I read, he was in the studio for like 5 minutes, and then he let his brother record them. And what it is basically the band rehearsing. They didn't know they were recording, and this one is really different from what the Alice Cooper band later became. And I know this album has a cult following, and there's people who's really into this one, but I'm not one of those. I think this is sort of a band lacking direction altogether. It's a lot of psychedelia in it as well. As recorded, I believe is what is it, 68, I believe, or 69. So there's still some LA psychedelia in it, but I think they became just the second album, Easy Action, is a lot better. And Love It to Death, and there's when they started working with Bob Ezrin, it's sort of when it all came full circle. So this is, as I said, I like most of the album, but this is not one I'm that fond of. But what a great band they were, the Alice Cooper band. So my last pick, Alice Cooper, Pretty's for You. Now I want to hear, what are your slow starters? There's tons of them just sitting here. I sort of forgot the first David Bowie album, for instance. Quite different from what he later did. And also like Red Hot Chili Peppers, the first one is quite weird as well. Let me know in the comment section, what are your sort of slow starters? Do you have any other suggestions, or do you agree with those I picked? Let me know. I will put a couple of tracks in the Spotify playlist from each album as well, so you can listen to it if you haven't heard them. Also, make sure you follow the QUILL on social media. It's the QUILL Sweden. We have our anniversary show coming up on May 26th. We're turning 30. So we have a lot of cool surprises and we're rehearsing for that one. So make sure you don't miss out. If you're in Sweden or nearby, I will post the ticket link down below as well. Well, that's it for now. Don't forget to comment in the comment section and also to subscribe if you're not already one of those who's subscribing to this channel. I will see you all again next week with a new subject. That's it for now. Cheers and bye.